All right, today we're going to talk about a pretty fundamental shift happening in cybersecurity. And no, it's not about some shiny new tool or another type of alert. It's about a whole new way of seeing your digital world. We're moving from flat lists to these dynamic, interconnected graphs. Let's get into it.
This quote right here, it just nails the problem, doesn't it? For way too long, there's been this massive imbalance, this asymmetry, in how defenders and attackers see the exact same battlefield. And honestly, it's a mismatch that has consistently given the attackers the upper hand.
So, what does that actually look like in practice? Well, on the left, you've got the traditional defender's view. It's all siloed data. You get an alert from your endpoint protection over here, a log from your identity system over there, an event from a cloud server. They're all just separate lines in a list. To make any sense of it, you have to do these complex manual joins, and it's almost always after something bad has already happened. But attackers? Oh, they see a web of connections. They see the relationships, right? Between every user, every device, every resource. It's a proactive, relationship-aware way of thinking.
To counter this, defenders have to start adopting that same perspective. And this brings us to the big idea that's really changing the game, the security graph. You know, what's really interesting here is just how simple the core concept is. Think of it like this. A list is like a phone book, just a flat list of names and numbers. A graph, though, is like a social network map. The nodes are the people, or in our case, users, devices, and files. And the edges are the friendships, the connections, the permissions, and all the activities that link them together. It's a living, breathing map of your entire digital environment.
And this is so powerful because the graph model isn't just some new way to visualize data. It's a way to see your network exactly as an attacker sees it. See, they aren't looking for a single vulnerability in a list. They're looking for a path, a series of connections they can chain together to move from some low-value entry point all the way to your most critical assets.
Okay, so how do we actually make this way of thinking a reality for defenders? That's where the tool comes in. Let's take a look at the Microsoft Sentinel graph.
So Microsoft Sentinel isn't just a traditional SIEM anymore that just collects logs. Nope, it's evolved into a full-on unified platform. At its foundation, you've got the Sentinel data lake, which is just pulling in all your security data from everywhere. Then, the Sentinel graph acts as the connective tissue on top of all that data. It maps out all the relationships, connecting signals from security tools like Microsoft Defender and even compliance tools like Microsoft Purview, all into one single, cohesive picture.
That all sounds great in theory, right? But what does it actually do for a security analyst who's in the middle of a crisis with alarms blaring? Let's walk through some real-world scenarios.
Okay, so picture this. During an incident, the most crucial question isn't just finding another alert. It's figuring out, where can the attacker go next? This is what the incident graph does. It instantly calculates the potential blast radius. If this user account is compromised, what crown jewels, like that critical production database, are they connected to? It shows you the attack paths so you can prioritize your response and cut them off before things get way worse.
But we don't want to just be playing defense all the time. The hunting graph lets you be proactive. A threat hunter can start with a simple idea like, hey, show me all the possible paths to my domain controllers, and then visually explore that complex web of relationships. This lets you find and shut down those hidden, risky access paths before an attacker even knows they exist.
And it's not just for external threats either. The graph model is incredibly powerful for understanding insider risk. Let's say a user downloads a sensitive file, renames it, then shares it out on SharePoint. Instead of trying to piece that story together from a dozen different log sources, the data risk graph in Purview just shows you the entire event chain. The user, the data, the actions, all in one unified visual investigation. It's a game changer.
Now, having a map is one thing. But what if you could give that map to an intelligent guide who could analyze it for you at machine speed? This is where we get to the graph's AI superpower.
You see, AI models thrive on context and relationships. It's exactly what a graph provides. A list of log entries is just raw, noisy data to an AI. But a graph is knowledge. It gives the AI the structure it needs to reason over incredibly complex scenarios and connect dots a human analyst might completely miss.
The technology making this happen is something called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP server. Now, don't worry about the name. Just think of it as a universal translator. It lets an AI agent, like a security copilot, ask the Sentinel graph questions in plain English without needing to learn some complex query language. It basically turns the graph into a tool the AI can use directly.
So the workflow becomes incredibly simple.
An analyst can just ask a normal question like, hey, what do we know about the user Mark Gafarova and his recent actions? The AI agent sends that to the MCP server, which reasons over the graph data to find all of Mark's activities and potential risks. And boom, the analyst gets a clear, contextual summary back in seconds, instead of spending hours writing queries.
This whole graph-based, AI-driven approach, it isn't just a feature, it's actually part of a much bigger company-wide philosophy about the future of security.
This all feeds into Microsoft's Secure Future Initiative, or SFI, and this is a huge deal. It's a massive commitment across the entire company to put security first, ahead of features, ahead of everything else. It's all about building security in by design and by default.
And this isn't just talk. The SCFI progress report shows real hard numbers. For example, they've hit 99.6% adoption of phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication for their own users. That is a massive step in locking down what is so often the weakest link, identity.
The scale of this effort is just staggering. We're talking about the equivalent of 35,000 full-time engineers working to improve security across the board. That is the kind of resource pool that drives innovations like the Sentinel Graph and this broader AI integration.
So, where does this all go from here? Well, the next frontier is custom graphs. This is where it gets really tailored to you. Organizations can now bring in their own unique data, say from a third-party system like Salesforce, and build their own custom graphs. You get to map your own digital reality and ask questions specific to your business, like, is a user's access in our CRM system creating a risk?
And that brings us right back to where we started. For years, attackers have exploited that gap between how they see the world and how defenders do. With graph-based security, that gap is finally closing. So the final question is a simple one. If attackers are already thinking in graphs, isn't it time you did too?